how long ago, since you're one of the old timers of the show here, how long ago did you peak approximately?
Possibly the first time I can remember going on with Bill Lynch was back in 1939. We were playing down what they call by the Green, back at the courthouse by the St. John River there. And I've been on the show off and on ever since. Presently I'm running this duck pond here, and I'm semi-retired now. It's a little sideline for me here. And hopefully I'll have many more years. We have some of my friends here, some of the older gentlemen that was on with the original Bill Lynch. Mr. Ollie Thomas next door here, he's 81. I'm 72 years old, and we hope we have many more years with the Bill Lynch organization. Bill Lynch died many years ago, and is now owned by Clarence Soggy Reed from Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. And it's a much larger organization now than what it was at that time. Possibly Bill Lynch had the old original rides, which were the merry-go-round, the Ferris wheel, the big old whip, and all those big old heavy rides, which is not comparable to what these $1 million rides are. Some of these rides now cost $500,000 and up as high as $2 million, the Gyrotron and the Orbiter and all those rides that Bill Lynch would never possibly ever would have brought up, but Mr. Clarence Reed goes down to Florida each year, and outside of Gibtown in Florida there, they have all these new inventions of rides and new technology, and the trend of the times now is to bring up these new rides because all the teenagers now, they want different thrills, which they didn't have to have years ago. They seem to demand more thrills and chills and spills, and we're very safety conscious here on the Bill Lynch show. It was very unfortunate last week in St. John. We had one of our ride gentlemen was killed there. That was accidental. He got down underneath his ride, and he must have touched some kind of a lever or something like that, but nobody will know because he's down underneath there by himself, and whether it was all hydraulic and air, so it's quite possible that he must have touched something, and the ride came down and killed him. He was a very nice young fellow. I helped work on that particular ride that day too, so I'll always remember as long as I live. It's very unfortunate that there was never any of those serious accidents on the Bill Lynch. We had accidents, but nobody all through my time ever got killed. To my knowledge of Bill Lynch, we never had any serious deaths on the show. When I first originally started with Bill Lynch, everything was operated by gas, and we had to be very careful of fellas throwing cigarettes off the Ferris wheel and things like that due to the fact that there could have been an explosion. Now all the motors on these rides are all electric. There's nothing operated by gas, and by the way, I have a ticket, a gate ticket, the Bill Lynch ticket here. The rides were at that time were 25 cents, and this is a picture of the Bill Lynch, Mr. Bill Lynch himself, and this was back in 1951. And there was other. I have other passes like that earlier than that, like I say, because this is 51, and I remember back in 39. So I brought this along with me this year because there's only 5 or 6 of us old timers, as they call it, left on here. The first thing I did on the Bill Lynch show was run a cookhouse. I was in the food business for a gentleman by the name of Jim Mutt, and then I got into putting up rides after that. And Ferris wheels. I'm still working it, even at my age. I'm still working at putting the Ferris wheel up occasionally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, Bob. Just sit it down there.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold it. I gotta hold it for a minute. We get onto another.
Sorry, she's flat. Want to put it on the counter or something?
Yeah, you can work that in up till the wartime when all the carnivals stuff more or less were disbanded, you might say, and the Army took over the buildings in the St. John Exhibition which was we had.
What about as far as maybe mention what they did during the war? If he played, you know, and where you played, did they play in the Citadel there?
Bill Lynch kept his going during the war, and luckily he did, due to the fact that the Army, Navy, and Air Force was around the Halifax, the naval dock and stuff like that, and so it was very good. The boys from all over the different countries were trying to find excitement, amusement for their time they had off before they went overseas, and luckily Bill Lynch was from Halifax, and they liked to ride the rides and play the games, and there wasn't too many carnivals going around at that particular time, to my knowledge, and I was on Bill Lynch shows at that time, and like I say, I believe I was running cookhouses at that time, hot dog stands, and I can remember all the different uniforms and stuff like that from all over the country, all over the world, showing up on the. All the boys were trying to find some excitement, and their girlfriends or whoever they might have had around the different leagues and stuff like that, and we had to give them some amusement before they went overseas. Yes, I suppose people that has their homes and see all these lights and stuff, and must think about what kind of a light bill we must have here, or what me particularly, but Mr. Soggy Reed, that runs and owns the Bill Lynch show, you see all these elaborate rides and all these motors, 10, 15 horsepower electric motors and running, and the amount of wire, there must be about 70 ton of wire, all different sizes of wire, which the electricians would know what it's like, and we have about a full-time crew on here with about 12 different electricians all going around, keeping everything going. At the time, Bill Lynch didn't have to worry too much about that because he was running all his rides with all his Chalmers four-cylinder gas motors. But now, like I say, it's all electric motors and a lot of wire, a lot of generator. We have two big generators here that can generate enough power for the whole show, but we do also cut in to the town power in order to, but if anything should happen, say somebody's going home out in the highway and knocks a pole down, which they did, I remember time years ago, and some fella going home maybe had a few extra drinks or something like that, and way out in the country knock a pole down and supplying the Carnival with the power, and the whole thing went out because they didn't have no generators. At least Bill Lynch never had any at that time. I can't remember. Maybe they had them, but Bill Lynch never had them to generate power. He always depended on the local town power. So there's a difference there. But I can't remember having any generators around. Although I did have one myself, and when the power did go out, we did have several occasions when the power got knocked off somewhere outside of the city somewhere. I'd bring my little generator out, and some of the other concessionaires would ask me, "Oh, Bob, here, plug me in, plug it in." So in order to keep their games going, it generally always happens Saturday night too. It always generally happens Saturday night, and that was a busy time. So over, and they're all marked on the bottom.
What's that different?
Small, medium, or large. You get a prize every time. Yeah, you don't walk away. Prize every time on the duck pond, and this duck pond has been around. The gentleman I'm presently working for built this duck pond about 50 years ago. Mr. Oliver Thomas from Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia. That's who I'm working for now. I'd like to run the duck pond. And so I said, nice and light for me, something light, where I'm 72 years old now, so I said, yes, I will help you from St. John and Fredericton, and possibly we're going to finish up next week in Windsor, Nova Scotia. And
there it is now, right now, right. 4, just 3 plays now. Starts the next race off.
I got it.
There's one that I like, but
Byron, you got a quarter? No. Put one in, get some food.
Okay, you feel. I think that works. Here. This is the guy started chewing your leg.
Wait, put it down there again. Put it right up close.
What's over here? Whatever. That's great. He knows he's going to get fed well.
Put the mic right under his mouth. Am I feeding it? So you eat the trees now?
They're all 3 feet in there. Wait for the corner?
Nope.
Want to feed this floor?
No. Yeah, actually, yeah.
4 years old. I come to the Bill Lynch Show. My parents were here since 1952, and they were employed by Mr. Lynch to run a cookhouse on what they call a second show. Bill Lynch Show consists of not 1, 2, 3, but 4 shows, and at that time they were on the second show. And I stayed there until I was 12 years old. My parents come over on the number 1 show, which is this one. And I stayed on the second show to finish out the year. And then I come over here and I started working, and like I've been working at different games and bingos. And I've done everything that there is to do here, I guess. And then when I turned 15 years old, I started with 1 game. And when I was 22, I owned 16 of them. And I had about 25 employees. And I've been here the rest of my life. I have 3 boys and a girl, and I brought them all up out here at the fair. Our oldest fellow is 25 years old, then we have one 22 years old, and we have one 18 years old, and we have a daughter that's 16 years old. But we've been here. I travel Atlantic Canada for all these years. I don't know what it's like to have a vacation in the summer. I like what I do. And what I do well, I guess. That's all I can tell you. I like having games that people win at, and I like the excitement. We used to own rides ourselves at one time. I just found it got too many headaches for me, so I went back in the concession business where I've always been. So I don't know what else I could tell you. That's about all.
Yeah, that's good. Maybe you can talk a little bit of the history now about Bill Lynch and his rides, and some of the problems you guys have, setting up and tearing down, and the people, the drunks, and...
Okay. Well...
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to keep it positive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like when you deal with the public, you're dealing with people every day, and you're dealing with all walks of life. And years ago when Bill Lynch was running, we had a lot of problems. We used to go into small towns, and people from town want to tear you down and what have you, but we never really got overtaken by that. But certain people do certain things, and we never had trouble we had a few drunks that give you trouble once in a while. As far as the rest of it goes, it's pretty well straightforward. The people that work on the fairs, they've always learned to get them up and get them down and get them there on time and get them up and do it all over again. And it doesn't matter how many hours you put in a day, it just doesn't seem to matter as long as you do what you're supposed to, I guess. And Bill Lynch shows I've been here for 42 years, and that's just a way of life for me. And I knew Bill Lynch really well, and my parents were here for 36 years, and they retired. My father, he's passed away now, and I don't know. It's just a good life. I just like it here.
What will be the years there? Just roughly your parents were with the show here with the Bill Lynch Show. What, from you say 52 was it?
From 52, yes.
52 to what approximately?
52 up till 19. Just let me think. I left here in 80. My parents probably left here in 74. They were here from 52 to 74. Yeah. Somewhere in that area.
Any stories or anything funny?
Lots of stories.
Pick the best one off the top of your head.
I don't know. The stories that are the best. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we've had some good stories out here that are funny, and we've had some stories that could have been tragedies that never were.
George, what about any maybe cases where you had a bad week, maybe? I say bad week in the fact that it was just a washout for you, so you got really
yeah.
Like something stands in your mind, like a hurricane or...
Yeah, we had hurricane back in Halifax, I would say 70s, and myself, at that time I remember really well because I just built a new game at that time, and we opened it the day before, and we did quite well with it, and the next day it's in a pile from the wind. And hurricanes have closed us down. We've set up and tore down in hurricanes before. I find the show now is more family oriented, not as family orientated as it was years ago. Everybody knew everybody, back like everybody, like if your father run the Ferris wheel, his wife sold tickets, his young fella worked in one of the games, and his daughter worked for somebody else. But now it's just like there's more everyday people working here than families.
I was down in Halifax. I took a trailer down for Soggy, or did something.
And I was one of the fortunate ones. We tore, like I have a philosophy: tear down when it's over. So we tore down, but the other people didn't tear down, and snow got on top of the tops and wrecked a bunch of games and wrecked a bunch of equipment. They had to chop the ice off the tilt-a-whirl to get it down, and the Ferris wheel. And, I played North Sydney when I was a little kid, and I can remember them tearing down the Ferris wheel in a snowstorm. So, you know, like that's happened. I don't know what you're really looking for. Like,
yeah, anything, it's fine. Like, I'll take little chunks
It's
of it.
hard to see.
People don't have the money no more and stuff. That's a big thing right today.
I find that
The people just don't have money like they used to. Years ago, you could come to these small fairs and you make more money than you do when you come to the big ones. And them days are gone now. The economy is it's hurting the business hard. That's my idea.
Yeah, that was great. That's what I'm looking for, something like that. Nice and chunky.
I find too. You find, George, you find it nice that you're dying earlier too. 11 o'clock. It seems you're dying.
There's
faster.
nobody there. Where before, I can remember when I was a kid and we used to play Charlottetown PEI. We used to open at 9 o'clock in the morning and we used to close at 2 in the morning. And we used to do that from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, tear down Saturday night, drive all night, set up in Chatham on Sunday. Get ready for Monday. But like, you don't have them hours no more because there's nobody here to that wants to be here, I guess. If you look at this fair, it's one of the bigger ones in New Brunswick. And at 10 o'clock at night, you can shoot a cannon down here. But 15, 20 years ago, I used to sit here with 16 games, and out of the 16 games, it wouldn't gross $100 in the afternoons because there was nobody here. The kids were all in school. There was no money here at all. And now this fair has improvised for that because there seems to be a few people here every day. Not that we're still making any great amount of money, but there's people here, and we never had that before. Is that what you're looking for?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, great.
I remember back, I worked for Jack Berry. Remember the fish and chips over there?
Yeah.
When I was here on Thursdays.
You wouldn't get a nickel.
Would you? You would. I remember sitting there and seeing your father and seeing Ollie Thomas sitting in the middle.
Harry and old Pop Libby sitting by the tree.
They'd be sitting there talking to one another, and you could see right down the middle right at the front gate.
There wouldn't be a soul
There
there.
was one soul.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be 2,000 people in the whole lot.
No.
Wednesday, Thursday afternoon. Tuesday, yes.
You got a little money Monday, a little bit Tuesday,
was
some
always-
Friday night, and the rest was Saturday.
Yep.
The other days you never got a nickel, unless you made money playing cards.
Right. Probably showing the